Mini Peaks listed a little over a year ago in March 2022. During that first year of operations, we advanced gold and copper assets in Queensland. From early 2023, we've been active with business development, quite focused on expanding our project pipeline. Initial acquisitions we made were beginning of this year. We optioned, we can go to another slide. Thanks. Yeah, you can see from our portfolio there, we're very focused on tier 1 jurisdictions. So all of our projects in Canada and Australia, with our early acquisitions being this year, the Odyssey rare earth element project in Labrador. We also acquired the ASCA lithium project, which came along while doing due diligence on the other project. We identified an opportunity for direct staking, so low cost acquisitions for the company. On the next slide, you can see a few investment highlights listed there, but the key ones I would want to highlight is amongst that exposure to the critical minerals sector that we're gaining, it comes amongst a pipeline of drill-ready targets, and these are established from existing drill intercepts and surface mineralization. So fairly advanced projects that we'll be working over the coming year, and all backed by an experienced team and a track record of discovery. On the next slide, you can see a bit of background about our team. I'm a geologist with 25 years experience. Our team across the board has quite a bit of experience in the mineral sector, with Marcus and I both being geologists working across several continents and across multiple commodities, including previous experience where our involvement has been associated with projects that have gone on to commercial development. Regarding the company, currently have just shy of 40 million shares on issue, but just shy of 10 million listed options that came from a loyalty bonus that we did to shareholders back in December, which are now listed and trading well. And as of last quarter, our cash position was 3.75 million, which I believe not only covers the work programs I'll cover in the coming slides, but takes us through follow-up programs into 2024. So we'll go through those in the next slide, starting with Canada. Just a quick overview of where we're at. We've got 2 projects in the Labrador and Newfoundland province. Again, the Odyssey project, an option that we have to get in and have a look at that project. We'll just go ahead and go to the next slide on that and zoom into the Odyssey project. This project saw quite a bit of attention in the most recent rare earths price boom in 2010-11. A lot of activity in what is known as the Red Wine District here in Labrador. This particular project area saw quite a bit of rock chipping, but the district is a known rare earth district. And just 20 kilometers to the east, during that time period, a resource was drilled out called the Two-Tom project. And across about 1.1 to 1.3 kilometers of strike, there's a 40 million ton resource there, grading about 1.16 total rare earth oxide. So a lot of tons pulled together quickly in a relatively short strike extent due to the widths of these systems. Similarly, 5 kilometers to the east, a bit closer to Odyssey, and just off the map there, is a project that received 6 holes in 2010-11, and the better intercepts there returning 44 meters at 1.22, 70 meters at 1% total rare earth oxide. So you can see some significant widths, which we believe is the same case here at Odyssey, which never got the drill attention. But what we do see is some higher tenor mineralization at surface that has yet to be followed up. We'll have field crews moving into this project in the next month. We'll be doing channel sampling and some initial shallow drill tests just to demonstrate the continuity across the widths, where in mapping we see 50 up to 90 meter widths of the mineralized lithology, and all of that sitting on 2 key trends that total over 3 kilometers of strike extent to be explored. On the next slide at the ASCA project, we're currently in the process of zooming into this area, but what really attracted us into Newfoundland is you're hosted in rocks that also host some major lithium resources in the Americas, the Piedmont lithium projects, the previous mining by Albemarle at Kings Mountain, and Ganfeng taken control of the Avalonia project in Ireland. Each of these projects are hosted in the same intrusion rocks that were part of the Avalon subcontinent. So you had a collision zone that formed causative intrusions for these LCT-type pegmatites. And when the Pangea supercontinent broke apart, these were all ripped apart and have been scattered either side of the Atlantic and down the coast of North America. So probably the largest area of coverage for these types of intrusions is across Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, where exploration for lithium is only in its infancy. The ASCA project itself is surrounded by a number of Canadian explorers focused on lithium, the more advanced of which would be the Benton-Silverman JV, who have lithium and cesium discoveries in pegmatites just 50 kilometers to the east of us, with a number of other explorers surrounding us. Our work to date, we're just initiating the reconnaissance work, satellite imagery, where we can identify pegmatites. We've identified more than 350 pegmatite targets in a 8 by 12 kilometer area. So genuinely a strong pegmatite swarm in the area, and we're just getting on the ground. We're already identifying tourmaline and beryl, key indicator minerals for the LCT type, and actively vectoring in towards where there's potential for a Goldilocks zone, as it's referred to, where you start to get development of the spodumene. Next slide. Coming back to home, closer to home, Queensland. We've recently done, just in the last month, a transaction that more than doubles our land position within the highly prospective Jarl Gold Province. We've got a land position in and around the Mount Rodden project, 2.3 million ounce resource currently being operated by Evolution Gold. We're bookended by that project and the 7.6 million ounce Mount Morgan. So a well-endowed area with also some exploration success being reported by Triumph and Mount Caninda in and amongst our land positions. In the next slide, we'll zoom in onto that Jarl project. So here, obviously in a major gold corridor, some very advanced gold projects in here. What's highlighted for us with a bit of a focus into the critical minerals sector is just in the last year, a new discovery for cobalt has been identified 6 kilometers north of previous gold drilling. These are in Eocene tertiary sediments that are hosting heavy mineral sands. These sands have never been identified in previous mapping, basically in an inverted topography. Old fluvial drainages are up at topo highs, and in the base of those, we're seeing manganese oxides trap both cobalt and nickel, forming a 1 to 3 meter horizon, where we're seeing up to 1% cobalt grades in situ. Across the broader widths, seeing variable grades from 4% down to even 380 ppm, which seemed a bit low, but we've just completed the gravity concentration tests over these intervals. And encouragingly, even 380 ppm cobalt, we're seeing upgrade to better than 1% through simple dense media separation techniques, which is the same beneficiation process that you would apply towards all the heavy mineral sands. So what we're seeing is up to 20 meter thicknesses of heavy mineral sand potential. And at the base of that, a very high value manganese, cobalt, and nickel mineral product that could be generated in amongst the other high value minerals that we're seeing, of which in preliminary work, we're seeing some zircon, rutiles, leucoxene, and even monazite. So it'll be interesting. Preliminary drilling there has confirmed that manganese cobalt horizon extends for about 4 kilometers strike extent, which is substantial already. But the target area does extend for about an 8 by 13 kilometer area. So with confidence that we can beneficiate that, we've gone ahead with air core drilling, covering about a 40 square kilometer area to expand the footprint of that cobalt zone and see if that's of interest. All that's through low cost air core drilling, which in mineral sands is the appropriate technique. So all of that can roll directly into resource estimation and quite quickly advance towards resource if something's there. On the next slide, we'll zoom into that gold area that's to the south. We're still quite excited about the gold at the Jarl project. A lot of high-grade intercepts. In particular, this year was reported 17.8 meters at 4 grams per ton. This was done on a hole in a different orientation than previous drilling. it outlines that mineralization is quite open in and amongst these previous intercepts, most of which are within 60 meters of surface. So this is a open drilled mineralization, open at depth and along strike, with quite a bit of volume potential to increase. And I think with these types of grades, as you can see, 12 meters at 20, and some of the drilling in the central ridge area, which has been offset by our 17.8 meters at 4, we believe there's potential here to build some ounces very quickly, and all of this in pretty close proximity to the Mount Rodden deposit area. And the Mount Steadman project on the next slide, just the other side of Mount Rodden. This is similar to Jarl in that it's only shallowly drilled. All of this drilling is within 40 to 50 meters of surface. There's some high-grade vein intercepts in amongst the drilling here. So you do get the 2 meters at 110, 2 meters at 12. These types of intercepts haven't really been followed up. From surface, though, interestingly, you're getting 19 to 25 meter on what appears to be a more than 20 meter true width zone of mineralization at surface running a gram per ton. So only in the last year, the vendors of this project started stepping out on this, and they've had success in repeating that 200 ppm soil anomalism for up to another kilometer to the north, and have continued that sampling. And we believe it's highly likely we can extend that footprint of soil anomalism out to 3.5 kilometers. And that's going to generate multiple targets to expand the footprint of that 20 meter wide zone already identified in previous drilling. And it'll be quite exciting then to, once we understand that, start chasing that down dip to look at volume increases once you have an increase in the footprint. I think nearly the final slide. Well, one last slide on our legacy assets, where we're up against the Caninda resource. We have a number of high-grade copper at surface exposures, covering a 5 kilometer by 5 kilometer target area with porphyry potential. A bit earlier stage than some of our recent acquisitions, but we'll continue to work on these projects and map and come to a better understanding to see if we have drill targeting to do here. On our final slide, a bit of an outline of our work program. As I mentioned, we're actively drilling at the Plateau Cobalt project. We'll put about 4,000 to 5,000 meters of air core, understanding the size potential of that target. We'll also continue with the metallurgical and basically mineralogical study work to understand the heavy mineral sands that are hosting the cobalt there. At the Odyssey project, previously mentioned, we will be commencing field activities for rare earths in July and expect results on that project in Q3. The lithium project, we're actively doing reconnaissance work. That's boots on the ground, following up with field validation of the satellite targets that we've generated and see if there's some low-hanging fruit there for outcropping lithium mineralization. And concurrent with that, then we'll still be advancing the gold and copper. Anticipate a small amount of drilling into our gold projects later this year for confirmatory work and structural studies to advance those gold projects. All of these easily funded in the 3.7 million cash balance we had as of March, with adequate cash balance there to fund follow-up where we have success going into 2024.
Thanks, Travis. Great presentation. Shouldn't be called many peaks, probably many opportunities might be a more apt name. Now, just talking about the cobalt market, there's been some fluctuations recently in terms of pricing. How does the dynamic for cobalt work?
I guess the smaller cycles, I suppose, hasn't impacted our decision to go into cobalt too much. We're mostly focused on the larger scale supply and demand side of things. So on the demand side, I think there's plenty of things you can cite and quote, and it's quite clear cobalt is going to be important in the development of EV batteries and battery storage as we work towards a fossil fuel mandate. I quite like Simon Michaud's research. In particular, he does some mass calculations, which even he comments are crude estimates. But when you look at those, the 2019 global reserve for cobalt equated to about 3.5% of the amount of cobalt required to make a transition to a fossil fuel-free economy. So a lot of cobalt is going to be required over the coming years. On the supply side of things, 80% of the current supply is coming out of the DRC. We see an ongoing increase towards ESG reporting and requirement, and our belief is ethically sourced cobalt domestically in Australia has the potential to attract a premium over the global cobalt market. So yeah, we'd definitely be interested in establishing offtake type agreements that could take advantage of where the cobalt is sourced from.
Staying with Yarrell, were you surprised by the cobalt discovery in the first instance? And then what's now excited you about the project?
Yeah, I guess the fact that, as I mentioned, the sands don't really show up on the map. It's just an opportunity that's never really been identified in the previous mapping for the area. So all of this was identified through stream sediment and soil mapping by the vendor who highlighted the manganese and cobalt, took a bit of mapping into the foothills of the plateau to really start to identify a source. But you clearly have these manganese oxides outcropping at surface with better than 1% cobalt extending for 4 kilometers of strike extent. So now the key question for us, the initial drilling pushes that in for about 1 kilometer underneath that plateau, with room to go another 6 to 7 kilometers to the north. So understanding the size potential of that is going to be key.
Now, I've got a question here regarding the Odyssey project. Talk us through the mineralogy. Is it a carbonatite, or how does the mineralogy work, or is it too early to call?
No, not too early. There's been, we're doing our work based off mineralogical studies for the Two-Tom resource to the east. It's not a carbonatite. It's para-alkaline intrusion on the margins of a shear zone. So in the metamorphics, the rare earths have been upgraded through remobilization of the minerals. So there's a bit of rare earths in veining, cross-cutting an already rare earth endowed rock type. They do see quite a bit of monazite in those. Probably red wine districts known. There is to the west of us a red wine deposit, which is more in heavy rare earths. Where we're working is predominantly light rare earths. We're seeing a strong endowment of the neodymium and praseodymium are the high value in the light rare earths. Amongst the heavy rare earths, those are hosted amongst eudylite, and there's some mineralogical challenges to the heavy rare earth style mineralization, but that's not where we're located. We're trying to get a bit better understanding of how what the mineralogy is amongst the light rare earths along the northern boundary of the red wine district. And yeah, the previous studies have been encouraging with the amount of monazite they see in amongst those, but that's 20 kilometers to east, and the mineralogy does change along strike. So that's will be a key focus of our exploration program in July.
For those watching at home, at work, at their desk, wherever they are, who understand the opportunities in Canada, particularly, given a lot of movement by Aussie juniors into that area, give me the 1 minute pitch on Newfoundland.
Well, basically, I mean, everybody's aware of St. James Bay, which has had a lot of activity and influx for Aussie juniors. It's had a lot of initial success. I think you have a similar footprint there. I think there's a number of emerging districts for lithium to come in Canada. And Newfoundland, you've got Origin Resources bookending us, who are a lithium-focused company, but also quite focused on their assets in Argentina. We've got Brunswick Exploration, who borders us on the west side of our project. They're across all of Canada and in some of the best lithium jurisdictions. So I really feel, Newfoundland is an emerging district, and we're going to see a lot more discoveries come out of that belt.
Many peaks, many opportunities, big workflow, exciting times ahead, a lot to see, well-funded, quality team. Travis, keep an eye on many peaks, put it on your watch list. Clearly a hidden gem uncovered here today as part of the Share Cafe Hidden Gems webinar series. Travis, thanks for your time. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you, David. Appreciate the time. Cheers.